together. So, right now he's in a very, very comfortable position.
When you look at those names there, as you said, Michael Kim 7 under, but running out of holes, can you see any of them bridging that gap?
The one that stands out to me is I think Davis Thompson. Davis is comfortably inside the top 50. He's unflappable. We don't see a whole lot of emotion. I mean, he can overwhelm a golf course. So he's one of those players that could get on a little ball striking streak of just pure length and overwhelming holes for 3 or 4 holes, and maybe all of a sudden you cut that lead in half. Now all of a sudden we've got a little bit of a competition coming out into the back 9. But the good news is for JT, you make a couple more birdies yourself, all of a sudden you re-stretch that lead again.
Yeah, and you can see the name of Chad. And as I said a couple of days ago, we had that lengthy delay on the Friday when the winds blew and players were kind of clinging on for dear life. But you can see out there, it's glorious conditions, perfect playing conditions, perfect scoring conditions.
And when players come to Las Vegas, that's what they expect. That's what mentally they are prepared to. I've got to shoot 66 every time I tee it up. Get me to 20 under at the end of the week, and that will give me some sort of chance. So all of a sudden you throw one really tough day in there. How do you handle that? It was amazing how many good scores actually were, but that's gonna it made it a little bit more of a challenge. But you see where he is right now. JT is right on target to get to that 20 under quite comfortably.
It's for the leader, JT Poston. He has 2 wins already on his resume. Let's see if he can handle the heat in Vegas coming down the stretch.
Commentators were saying there, let's see if JT Poston can handle the heat coming down the stretch. For the likes of JT Poston, for the likes of Davis Thompson, they're only interested in winning this tournament. But I wonder what the mentality is of some of the other guys in that leaderboard, the likes of the Rico Hoeys and Michael Kims, whether they're thinking, I want to go out there and try to win this tournament, grab it by the scruff of the neck, or let's just minimise the mistakes because we're trying to keep our cards here.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many parts to it. Again, we talked at the start, didn't we, about that freedom, and there's no what ifs with JT Poston. But Michael Kim, I believe, started just inside the top 125 at the end of the regular FedEx Cup season, and the start of this full series has been pretty poor, and he's fallen outside. So now he's got this is the opportunity. Okay, I can wrap up goal number 1, which is to get my playing privilege for the next year. And oh, by the way, I might be able to win a golf tournament as well. So, you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, as it were. But he knows he's got to play perfect golf, even to this point. He's got to get it on the green in 2 on 16, maybe make an eagle, at least make birdie, and then birdie at least one of the next 2, probably both of them, to have a chance.
Yeah, he's sort of running out of holes, isn't he? Whereas Doug Kim is the other man at 17. Doug Ghim, sorry, is the other man at 17 under par, who'll be looking to sort of mount a bit of a challenge. Interesting player, Doug Ghim, because he was part of that graduation class, which was Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Matt Wolff. He was part of a very strong Walker Cup team, I seem to remember as well. Hasn't kicked on the same way those other 3 did.
He's got a very good short game, so you just saw it right there. That was a pivotal part. I think if he'd have missed that part, that would have ended the momentum, and who knows what would have happened after that. But that part we just saw him make there, that was massive, because that still keeps him in with the sniff, gets it in a good shape off the tee on the next one. So now all of a sudden you kind of springboard off what just happened, and maybe you get one a little bit closer. But he's one of those players that doesn't have the benefit of length off the tee. But again, this tournament this week it's short, it's firm, and it's an altitude. So a 290-yard drive is going to go 310, this time of the day.
Yeah, and crucially, JT Poston still hasn't put a foot wrong so far. He's got that 3-shot gap. He's headed now to the 9th par 5 chancer to pick up another birdie, perhaps even better there as well. And then that back 9, he's giving up a few shots as well. So JT Poston still firmly in the driver's seat at TPC Summerlin.
Michael Kim has no idea what's going on behind him, but what's in
Kim facing a must-make par putt here if he's to stand any chance, you would think. So may just settled a little divot there for JT Poston. Looked like a lucky break not heading into the rough, but then unlucky when it...
Вот мне нам танцы мои слов. Я творюсь в свой мир, ломаю устои. Не сдамся, не сломлюсь, я воин идей. В моем сердце огонь, в глазах яркий свет. Я иду напролом сквозь тернии к звездам. Он закрой мой девиз, мой путь неустанный. Он закрой, я качаю биты. Мои ритмы снаряды летят сквозь лимиты. Я творец своей судьбы, я во власти этих слов. Он закроет, я меняю мир, ломая устои. Он закроет, я меняю мир, ломая устои. Я ищу легких путей, не боюсь
eyes right on the downswing.
Yet another beauty of a tee shot there from our leader JT Poston, but it's been the flat stick that's been working pretty well for him so far this week. 10th overall in the putting stats this week, and his putting is a part of his game, Gary, that does tend to be pretty solid. It is how he manages to separate himself from some of the other guys that he's competing against. I'm going to have a look at what is a fairly unique putting stroke.
I think I see there's a lot more feel to it than maybe you would see in a lot of the modern day players. So let's just take a little look at this. So you look at the setup, it's it's very much tension free, it's quite upright, but I just want to pay attention to the hands here. So when we play this, just watch how the hands just keep moving. There's movement the whole time. He settles and then he goes. But one thing he does, which is actually quite unusual for especially modern players, is the lower half really moves a lot, which to me shows that tension-free and that freedom and that natural way of swinging a swing. Yeah, let's do that again.
We can see what you mean.
Yeah, so if we this time focus more in the knees, and now watch how we see a little bit of turn with that lower half of the body.
Almost
but it's just
it's
a little bit of freedom. So if we take a little look at this, what can we learn from this that I think can help you? Number one, I think tension. The tension free, when we see most people at the golf club, they kind of freeze over it. Our arms are very locked in. That tension goes all the way up to our upper body, and then we kind of flinch a little bit, get a little bit jerky with it. So with JT, he just stands up to it fairly naturally, and just the arms kind of just hang. There's just that tension free. But what you'll find is the tension doesn't increase as the swinging happens. It stays free the whole time. So when you're on the putting green, see how often you can just make a swing where the arms are just as free. Ooh, almost, that might be the new way of doing it. But see if the arms can be just as free at address and at impact, and you're going to get that little bit better release, a little bit more flow to the swing. And if the hips go a little bit, let them go a little bit. It's all about the rhythm, the balance,
and
the freedom.
JT Poston is that movement that you were talking about in the hands, from the moment those hands stop moving to the moment he pulls the trigger, it's a split second. He's not standing stationary over that putt.
Yeah, so everything about him is movement and reactive. Make it a target sport. And that's what we want to do when we're at home, is we don't want to stand over it, freeze with tension, and then freeze over the ball, and then we've got to find a way to start the swing. This way there's just that natural flow to the swing that that just sort of leads into a good rhythmical swing.
And that grip as well. What's the old cliche about hold it as if it's a tube of toothpaste with the top off? You don't. If you're gripping onto it, then that's when the tension creeps into your shoulders as well. That's when you make a bad stroke. Whereas if you're all loosey goosey, that's when you can just put a nice stroke in it.
Exactly. It's just there's so many ways of putting, and it's artistry putting. We see a lot of different ways to roll a putt consistently. You see everyone from Ben Crenshaw being very upright and very flowing to people more bent over and a little bit more connected. So there's not one way of doing it, which is the great thing. It's almost like with the swing, there's almost one way, and that's the only way these days.
Yeah, there's no one way of doing it, but this man we're about to see now fairly.
Gonna head up one hole to the 13th. A moment ago, Rico Hoey.
For all these guys now, as you were saying earlier, Gary, any steps in the wrong direction, and that's almost their race run. Now they need to play flawless.
Opportunity gone there for Thompson.
He's had a couple of opportunities go in this back nine, Davis Thompson. Big levers, hits at a country mile. But if you're missing from 7 feet and in on a day like today, you're really missing out on the chance to close that gap.
Back up to 4 shots, 64, 65, and 66. The first 3 rounds. Poston, it looks like, Smiley, he's in complete control of this event.
That was a big tee shot he hit at 16 because he's basically looking at another birdie. The tee shot at 17 and 18 are what's going to decide whether JT wins this golf tournament or not, but he sure looks good.
We saw Gary Woodland make his way to the first page of the leaderboard. He did make that eagle putt at the 16th. The amateur Ian Gilligan is an amazing story. Just the 3rd amateur to ever make the cut at the Shriners Children's Open. Ricky Fowler, one of the great stars in the sport and in the field, shot a Sunday's 68. C.T. Pan, the bronze medalist from Tokyo in the Olympic Games 3 years ago. As we go,
A little mistake from JT Poston. He's just hit a cracking tee shot there, but one little mess up and dug ghim birdies it, and suddenly you're in a playoff that you should never been in 20 minutes ago.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's that emotional flip around, isn't it, where you basically got it won, and then all of a sudden, you've got to really work your way through it. We're just so spoiled, though, aren't we? Growing up in the era of Tiger Woods, gets the lead, the drama's over.
Yeah.
The drama is never over with anyone else. It's such a hard thing to close out the tournament, and he'll earn it if we assume can knock out this last hole.
And he has been so mightily impressive up until that little short miss at 17 as well, because we were saying earlier, he's kind of just gone about the business. It hasn't been spectacular at all, but suddenly you look at his scorecard, been 5 birdies, no bogeys there at all until that one at the 17th, and he's just kind of kept everyone at arm's length.
Yeah, he's been clinical, isn't it? When they got close, he made a birdie and then just stretched the lead. And, it's a fascinating course for that. And that's why there's a little bit of volatility in this back nine, because you've got 2 par 5s, a drivable par 4, and a hole or 2 that can present problems. So there are opportunities for 2-shot swings to happen. But I feel confident he's going to close this out with a good iron shot and win another PGA Tour event.
Yeah, it's a daunting tee shot, that one on the 18th, but he's split the fairway. JT Poston, he knows that 3 more shots from there. Well, he may have made harder work of it at the end than he had to, JT Poston, but a first win as a father after Scotty arrived back in March of this year. His 3rd PGA Tour win in this one, probably, I imagine, will mean the most.